Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious today. As advertised on Facebook, we're going to do a little bit of open mic with me here today, open mic with Mark. And I was out to Space Center today. We're going to talk about one of our favorite astronauts that gave a great talk out there. We're going to talk about Boeing being pushed back. We're going to talk some things going on in the solar system you might not know about in the universe. And we're going to take your questions as we are well into our fourth year of providing content on astronaut birthdays, shuttle news, shuttle juxtaposing shuttles in history, shuttles of the month of May, we call it, and everything that's spacey out there. So, of course, the American Space Museum for over 20 years has been preserving the birth of our space age right here in Brevard County, where it all started. Our museum has been at its current location about 7 years, and it was in 5 or 6 other locations during that 20-year period. So our executive director, Karan Conklin, and our small staff here does the best we can as a nonprofit to have a beautiful museum, as well as provide some events throughout the year like Shuttle Fest and our memorabilia shows. And then, of course, unexpectedly, Stay Curious became very popular, born out of the pandemic, so we could reach out and talk to everybody who was cooped up in that 4 years ago that we all want to forget about and seem to have forgotten about it. So if you've got a question or a comment about how you found us here on YouTube now, I've got my trying to pull up my YouTube channel here so I can get your questions. Let's don't do that. There we go. I got hit the live there. So, oops, of course I messed it up there. So let me try to get back to that while we go. There we are. All right. Barely know how to do this with a smart tablet, but there we are. And we got Steve Jokums on there. Greetings to you, Steve. And hello, Dave Stange. Got your message and gonna comment about Apollo 10 was the day when they tested the lunar module about 9 miles from the surface of the moon and separated from the descent stage, and then they had a little bit of problem quickly solved, and they kind of swept it under the rug in some ways, but we'll talk about that today. And hello, Robert Law up in Dundee, Scotland. Glad that you're enjoying your evening today. Out at the Space Center, these are my heroes behind me on our green screen. Without a doubt, I grew up a space nut as a kid in Northwest Ohio, and these were my heroes. And the light was just hitting the wall of the Astronaut Hall of Fame, sponsored by Boeing, that it looked so beautiful, and I couldn't resist a photo. And when I took it, I knew we'd probably be using it as the green screen today. So enjoy. Left to right, there's Wally Schirra. Off to my shoulder, right there's Deke Slayton. That's John Glenn, and Scott Carpenter over there. Up at the top under Stay Curious is Alan Shepard. The shortest of them all, of course, was Gus Grissom. And then you got Gordon Cooper over here. So beautiful way the light was hitting that relief on the wall there today. So hope that you enjoy today's program of current events. We're going to make some comments about 4 years and take your questions. And I couldn't comment about our 4 years with too long without talking about Marty Winkle. Hi, Marty. Marty's been with us since the beginning. He's been part of this museum for about 10 years before I found it, doing a lot of fundraising for us. And we become great friends over this program. He's sort of the big brother I've never had, and really appreciate his dedication and love for this program, because that's what we have for it. We have some love that we want to share with you about loving the space program. We all drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, here and want to talk about it all the time. But also the fact that you love the personalities and people that we try to put in a chair beside me 2 or 3 times a week. And they have got extraordinary stories to tell, particularly our American space workers. We call them national treasures because that's what they are. The Apollo era, like Marty, who worked on the Grumman lunar module, did things that nobody's ever done before, build a spacecraft to operate in the environment of outer space on an alien world and launch off that alien world and never be allowed to come back to Earth. That is what the lunar module is all about, that no one has duplicated in now over 55 years. And we're going to talk about that mission today. Well, the astronaut I was teasing you with, well, yeah, episode, still tease you with, who's the astronaut that we really enjoyed was out there today? Episode 1049 today, all right? And we're going to take the week out on Friday with Scott Carpenter's orbital flight, repeating John Glenn's in May 1962 that Glenn did in February. And Thursday, I had something else in mind if I don't get a guest. So we've got always trying to give you content, and we're always welcoming you to suggest a program you would like to see on Stay Curious here. So I'm looking here. We've got William Whiting saying hi there. Carlton Bailey is in his animal kingdom. And looking forward to our show today. And hello, Suta Lucky B. So glad everybody's chiming in there. Carlton, you might have a question or two. You've been on the show quite a few times. Maybe you got a question about the wardrobe and makeup department, or maybe you're curious about our crack team of investigative reporters that we have, or how about our production department and the great graphics they do. Ask away and we'll tell you all about it because you're looking at him. So there's the great guy, John Harrington. John Harrington is out at the Space Center. A STS-113 is his mission. He did 2 spacewalks on that. Really an important mission to build a big structure that they took up on the space station. And he's just a great guy. He wrote this children's book. Let me go like this. That he talks about going to space and training. And he also talks a lot about his Native American heritage as a Chickasaw tribe Indian. And he took an eagle feather and flew to space from his tribe up there. So this is a children's book. Again, let me see if I can flip another page here in front of us all here. There's John doing, yep, they put that piece of hardware up there on the space station. And he really tells a good story. His story's great, Marty. I like it because he flunked out of college. You think, how could an astronaut flunk out of college? Well, too much rock climbing and not enough studying when he was going to the University of Colorado. And then he got in the Navy and excelled there and learned to fly 37 aircraft, I think they said up there. So John Harrington, that's what it looks like up on the stage. Dr. Harrington, he's got a doctorate degree in education, and he's a just very laid back individual, but he is very super smart, and really touts the fact that going to space is such a unique experience for so few individuals. In fact, he put a graphic up there that you saw the other day, Marty. 18 billion people on the planet have been born, 18 billion maybe, and of course you break it down to the number of people who've orbited the Earth, 617 out of that 18 billion, and 24 people been to the moon, 12 walked on it. The numbers are infinitesimal of a person like John Harrington and what they bring. And Marty, he was out there in the audience. When I sat down, I saw Nick Thomas come by me, and he's sitting out in the seats with the audience out there. And apparently these gentlemen in front of him were part of his morning extra VIP tour that they do, Breakfast with the Astronaut. And he surprised them when he got up. He patted him on the back and says, "Okay, hey guys." And they were all surprised that he was right there sitting behind him. But that's a perfect example of how this guy is. He just wants to sit down with everybody and share his wonderful story. So best to you, John Harrington. Thank you for all that you do. And he did an excellent episode of Stay Curious a little over a year ago. And he asked me, Marty, if he could be back on the show. And I said, well, think about it. So for about a third of a second. And then, of course, you can come on, John. So we'll probably try to record something, his visit here, and hopefully get to take him and his wife out to dinner. So um, let's see here. Steve Jokums is saying that his wife, Pat, met John back in 2017, and he does do a great job. And Doug Forrest is out there at the International Society of is in Los Angeles. He's exhibiting art with other international art association artists starting tomorrow. And yep, we'd love to come over and see you, Doug, for sure. He says, how about a quick jaunt, Mark and Marty, over to LA? So yep, we're Tom Celentano. Hello to you, buddy. Glad that you're on there. Yeah, the National Space Society's big event is this week in Los Angeles. So our good friends, Bert Dick, who's been on the show, Gabriel and Jennifer are also out there representing the NSS. Well, here's the talk of the day. We're not going to see this launch for we don't know when. The Boeing has postponed the launch of the maiden flight of Starliner. That's the Atlas V rocket. Of course, an Atlas II rocket took Scott Carpenter to space and 3 other Mercury astronauts. We're going to talk about Scott's mission on Friday. And Marty, we were talking about in our pre-production meeting that it's really been strange the last week since they scrubbed it May 6th, that there's been no chatter at all about setting a new date. The date was set for Saturday, okay? And this is Memorial Day weekend Saturday. And every news show I've watched locally never had talked about it. There's no buzz about it. Oh, and I'll launch this Saturday. Usually people are kind of, particularly in our space community, talking about it. And usually we see increased traffic at our museum, particularly from Europeans coming here to see this launch. But nothing was being said about, there's Butch Wilmer and Sonny Williams on the right that were 2 hours away from being launched, getting settled in their Starliner. I was watching it live 2 weeks ago. And then they put the date for Saturday, May 27th, after that May 6th scrub. So I thought it was odd, Marty, no buzz about anything in the community here. And then finally, Carlton sent out an email last night to everybody that he knows or text that it was going to be scrubbed. So, and just checking the comments coming in there today. Thank you for everybody joining us today. Any comment, Marty, about we always sell crew shirts out there, and Marty it's a blessing he does that, but I know he does it because he loves meeting the rocket hobos out there, don't you, Marty? But I just thought it was kind of odd. There's no energy here on the Space Coast about this launch for Saturday on Memorial Day weekend, and everybody just had the feeling it wasn't going to go. Tom Celentano, he said he's reading another report saying there are available windows on May 28th and June 1st and 2nd if technical issues are solved by then. And then Mark Thiel, thank you for joining us today. And of course, like anybody in the human spaceflight business, Mark Thiel points out Boeing isn't going to fly until Starliner's ready. And but we've been waiting a long time, and that's where the impatience is, because I lost $1 or $2 betting that Boeing was going to orbit humans around the Earth before SpaceX Crew Dragon was. Well, Crew Dragon has taken 13 crews to Earth orbit, 9 of them to the International Space Station. No, all of them but 2 of them to the International Space Station, I think. The St. Jude's, and then, no, I think both Axiom went up there. St. Jude's might be the only one that didn't go to the space station there. Billionaire Jared Isaacman's outfit. So, Butch and Suni, hang tight there. Sunny, a lot of people call her Suni, but I was corrected by Kay Hire astronaut that it's Sunny, Suni. So very experienced astronauts have been waiting for over a decade to get weightless again. There's the beautiful shot that Mark Usiak took, kind of a construction shot showing you the business end of the exhaust port coming out and the capsule up there. It's not a very big rocket. I think it's under 200 feet tall, and the Falcon 9 is 212 feet tall. So so we hope that they give us a good date soon, and that we can. I was looking forward to it, Marty. It was a weekend and Friday. We're going to get a lot of people coming from Orlando over here. The weekday, when a launch even crewed is during the weekday, you don't get this big influx of people. They're just 50 miles away in Orlando wanting to come over and check it out. So let's see here. We got Tommy Usiak saying good afternoon. And and we appreciate your comments there, Suta. And anyone have a direct question about our program, how we throw it together? Tom Usiak knows, and so does Carlton. They've seen the wizard in action here, and I'm sure they're amazed at times. It is, I'm not gonna say a last minute deal, but it's always going down to the last minute as I'm throwing slides together and harvesting some information. As this isn't the only thing I do at the American Space Museum. This is just part of my job as the community liaison. I actually spend half my day working on the projects that we have going here, and some of the other things we're doing with the not city councils, but Chamber of Commerce. But yes, we're very blessed and needs your support as a nonprofit. Well, what's this little gem that I dug up? Who knows what that is? It's finally made it over here to the Kennedy Space Center. Yep, that's Dream Chaser, the space plane named Tenacity. This is Sierra Space. They were called Sierra Nevada Space till about a year ago when they rebranded just to Sierra Space. This is a Dream Chaser. And Dream Chaser looks like a mini shuttle. All right, you can see that it is a mini shuttle compared to the technician standing there beside it. Another view of it that Sierra Space posted on Facebook. Came here 4 days ago on this flatbed. And wonder where they have it, Marty. Not sure where they would have this stowed at. I didn't look at the detail of that. Would they let private companies in the SSPF?
Could be. I was guessing the OPF possibly.
Yeah, it could be in one of the orbital processing facilities, or most likely maybe the space shuttle processing facility. Somebody will tell me there, maybe. Robert Law's got an idea. Could you do a Zoom program and could all come in? Yeah, we'll do that. I was thinking about that too. That we throw out we're going to do Google Meets and people just want to come in and see each other's faces and talk. We will try to work on that. Robert Law wants to know any updates for the Polaris missions. Well, we'll get to that here in just a second when I'm done with Dream Chaser. Dream Chaser is an uncrewed space plane that's going to take cargo to the space station. Now, someone's already typing, wait a minute, they were supposed to have people on it. Yes, they were going to have it crewed. Right there where the black is where the canopy has been shown on many of the illustrations. But when you put humans in something, it's a whole other level, and they want to perfect the cargo end of this, just like SpaceX did with their Cargo Dragon, flying it, and it's basically the basic it's basic Cargo Dragon and Crew Dragon differ only by their environmental control systems, of course. So I haven't seen a date that this is going to launch. I don't know the vehicle this is going to launch on. Is this one of the Vulcan rocket deals on there? Carlton, if you know something about that, chime in there, because I didn't do my homework very much on this. But this is a concept of it in space. So you go from this, okay, to thinking about, oh yeah, okay, now I get it. We got a space plane with solar panels. It can have cargo. It can do some military interesting things in space, maybe. We'll get to that in a minute, where we've got a couple military space planes orbiting the Earth right now. So looking forward to Sierra Space going up there. And if somebody knows a little about it, let me know. Uh, yeah, the Starliner components. Uh, oh, yeah, Mark Thiel, good point here. He's saying that Starliner loaded up for a May 6th launch 3 weeks ago. It has some components on there that were supposed to come back to Earth already, maybe. So there might be some delays in doing that there. And Mark Thiel, that's a good point there, Mark. And oh, okay. Well, we're warned. Mark Usiak's warning us here that his sister Audrey is coming down to see us, especially Marty. She wants to see a launch too. So, all right, Audrey Usiak. Or maybe her name's not Usiak. Um, Carlton says they can't fly on the 28th through the 2nd Hall of Fame weekend, and Mark Usiak would never recover from trying to figure out which to cover, the cocktail challenge or the launch. Oh, humanity. Good one, Carlton. And I understand Mark's coming down here this weekend, maybe. Carlton's got the info. The Vulcan Centaur rocket will fly the configuration, uh, uh, this space plane, and with 4 solid rocket boosters and a long length pairing payload and 2 RL-10 engines on the Centaur upper stage. So United Launch Alliance does have that Vulcan Centaur rocket there, as well as their Atlas V rocket. So they're going to clear the deck there. This is going to, of course, Sierra Space, even if they locked in a date to go up to the space station, it's probably going to be changed because there's so many ports available up there. I think 7 docking ports. And I didn't look up to see who's docked up there today. I think there's 4 spacecraft up there, 2 crewed and 2 cargo ships. So good luck to you, Sierra Space. Well, and let's talk a second here about the Polaris missions. Robert Law, uh, Jared Isaacman's company is called Polaris. I keep forgetting the second part of that. Polaris Dawn, I think it is. And he's a billionaire that has been to space on his own. And he flew to space with the 3 other people, called the St. Jude's mission up there. And then he wants to fly a private mission, do the first private spacewalk, which was planned last summer. It's obviously been pushed back almost a year. That shows you how hard it is to train for spacewalks, as well as develop a spacesuit. All right. So also 2 people. When you open up the hatch of the Crew Dragon, that's going to expose everybody else inside to the environments of space. They might as well be spacewalking, though they're seated there. So they're going to have the proper spacesuits on. And I understand a woman's going to go on board with them, and 2 other crew members, and he's going to go out do a spacewalk, come back in, and then the lady's going to go out and do a spacewalk. And hopefully that will happen sometimes late this summer. Dave Stange, he was talking about Dave Stange's, I didn't bring that up. That's good. In space history today, or this weekend, Blue Origin resumed their flights, of the suborbital flights, and of their New Shepard. And I think 5 or 6 people went up, including Edward Dwight, who was a candidate for astronaut, an African American, one of the first ones that was brought in there. And Dave's asking about a little background of him. And I don't know any more than what I've read on all the news reports. There's a great story on Collect Space about Mr. Edward Dwight there. And was up on that suborbital flight at age 91. And I can read up on that later, Dave, but don't know much about that other. Can't recall what they said about his career and why he wasn't chosen. He was in one of the first group, I believe, the Air Force, and just didn't make the cut for some reason. So we got a Starlink launch tonight at 10:33, and then tomorrow night at 6:45. So a couple noisy rockets going off.
The first one's at Vandenberg.
Well, Carlton didn't say that. He said tonight, 10:33 p.m. I know the Vandenberg ones also get confused with a lot of people, but no, I think there's two back to back, Marty, here. So we'll be checking those out. They got Starlink satellites on them. They're going to the south there. So, all right, we were talking about what's happening in space. Does everybody know what this is? This is the Chinese Change 6 lunar lander attached to its retro rocket that did deploy this into a orbit around the moon about a week ago, sometime in June. Right now it's waiting for the opportunity for the sunlight to be just right for it to land on the back side of the moon. And the plans are, and that red circle there shows a rover, a miniature rover. You can see the white wheels on the right side there. Two little white wheels. It's just like a toy almost attached to this. This is a sample return mission to the lunar far side, now orbiting the moon, gearing up for its attempt. The multi-component spacecraft is scheduled to touch down on the back side of the moon in early June in a giant impact feature where they think some of the regolith is churned up, that they might find some soil that has water ice beneath it. So Chang 6 is currently waiting for optimum illumination conditions for landing, and when it does, it will be on the moon in 48 hours. For 2 days, it'll be very ambitious. It will scoop up some rocks and soil from the lunar surface. It will have a drill that will bore about a 1 foot deep into this lunar soil with a bore tube that'll probably collapse and put into a return vessel. All that lunar rock, up to 4 pounds, 2.2 kilograms they're hoping to get, will be placed within the ascent part of this rocket for departure from the moon and docking with an orbiter that's already orbiting the moon. And then 5 days later, it'll land somewhere in China's Inner Mongolia. And so that will be exciting to see them bring back some moon. They've done this before, and Russia's brought back 3 different missions back in the 70s, brought back some lunar soil. So the technology's been proven, something we've never done. America's never took a robot to any celestial body and brought back soil. We have picked it up with our own hands and brought it back. So that is China's robotic Chang'e 6. They had a robot 4 years ago that scurried around the moon and was a big hit. U2 was its name, YUTU, and it had its own TV channel. The children of China were obsessed with it. They made a real publicity out of this rover. So we're expecting something like that to be back on the moon. And China is going to the moon with human beings. They're training them now. And this is one of the Chinese posters with the 2 spacecraft to orbit the moon. Haven't seen the lander yet, but that is a real Chinese posters basically saying we're going to the moon. So they've got a communication system set up, and with 2 satellites orbiting the moon way far away so that they're not blocked by the moon. They go above or below, so they'll always be in constant contact with the Earth. So we haven't done that yet either. And if we're going to do Artemis, we've got to have other satellites orbiting the moon to relay what's going on the backside. So Bailey says Marty Vandenberg went this morning, I think. So, um, Tom Celentano, yeah, on the NS-25 Blue Origin launch the other day, uh, over the weekend it was, a chute failed. Uh, two of the one of the three chutes have failed to open, and Tom's asking, do we know how much concern there is over a failure of one chute? And I don't. A lot of that's internal stuff, and we don't hear a lot from Blue Origin or SpaceX. They're very secretive and proprietary with things that they share. But I would suspect that it did its job. That's why we have three chutes, because two will do the job. And Steve Jokums agrees with that. Shepard can land with two. The third is for redundancy. So, uh, will Chinese orbiter be able to communicate with the lander during the descent to the far side? Yes, it will, Mark Thiel, as I've read up on. That's why they put it there. They do want to try to get some live video feeds there. So, um, the lander's on the poster, said Robert Law. All right, that's why we have you on here today, everyone, to correct me. So maybe that's the lander in the foreground and the orbiter on the right. Just doesn't have its leg. Oh, I see. Yeah, it is, Robert. Yeah, he's right. You got the engine on the lander, and there you see the legs below the engine. Okay, so and not sure if those are crewed vehicles or not. They could be, but solar panels a big deal for all of this going to the moon. And Marty, I wonder, uh, did Grumman ever consider solar panels on the lunar module for energy?
No, not that I'm aware of. I don't think we even had solar panels back in the 60s.
Marty's saying 55 years ago, what are solar panels? Nobody knew what solar panels were 55 years ago. And they kind of did, but they were prototypes. Yeah, you're right, Marty. Dumb question in a way. Yeah, yeah. Think about that. 55 years ago, half a century. Today, it's just normal that we're going to put solar panels. I bet most of you've got a solar panel at your home, just to charge up your RV power or battery or something like that. So yeah, that's a good answer, Marty. We didn't even know what we were looking at there. All right. We also have India is orbiting the moon. We've got an American lunar reconnaissance orbiter. We've got an Indian, the country of India orbiter, and we've got China orbiting the moon right now. And the Indian orbiter has taken these two pictures of the descent stage of the lunar module, and from Apollo 11 and Apollo 12. There you see the striking shadow that they're casting there. And as I bring this up like this, we're talking about the lunar module here. All right. And this part is what's left on the moon. All right. And that's what we're seeing in these pictures here. And this part's what we're going to talk about, the ascent stage on Apollo 10, that they had a little buck and bronco ride on that for 15 seconds, according to Gene Cernan. But as we're seeing on these pictures, it is the bottom part, this part that was left there that had the descent engine on it, that landed with the four legs on it. They left the ladder, they left the rover, they left all kinds of stuff on the moon, the three rovers from the last three missions. And so getting from 60 miles high with a telephoto lens, and I can even see on Apollo 12 on the bottom some of the footprints where they walked away over to Surveyor Crater. Not that apparent on Apollo 11. Maybe that's been churned up more already. And you see the big crater over there that Neil Armstrong had to fly over at the last minute. And then he walked over to one of those two craters on his longest walk. And folks, if you're looking at a basketball game, if you're a basketball fan and following the NBA playoffs, this all up in the upper picture there, where you see the lunar the descent stage and the big shadow, and those two craters right there, that would all fit in the small craters near it there. That would all fit on a basketball court. They did not walk further from one basket at the end of a basketball court where the lander was to the other goal basket at the end. But it was just let's get there, let's land, let's grab some rocks, and let's get the heck out of there safely. And that's what they did. And then Apollo 12, with a lot of confidence in this vehicle, stayed on and did two spacewalks, and one very famously going up to the Surveyor spacecraft that landed there a year and a half earlier. So, all right. So let's see what else we're going to talk about at random today. Humans orbiting the Earth. To help you stay curious, 10 humans orbiting the Earth, 3 on the Chinese Tiangong space station. They're called tachionauts. This is only the 13th crewed flight in the history of the Soviet space program, or Chinese space program, which their spaceship Shenzhou is a knockoff of the Soyuz. It's 3 segments, and it works very well, of course. It's a 40-year-old tried and true design. But we've got 7 on the International Space Station. We got our Crew Dragon 8 up there. They've been up there for almost 2 months. And then you've got the Soyuz MS-25 crew. It's a little bit of a misnomer because the newest member of that is Tracy Dyson there in the middle. And on either side of her are 2 Russians that have been up about 6 months already before she arrived there. And those 2 Russians are going to be up there for a full year, right at 365 days when they come back in this Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft with Tracy. Tracy flew 12 years ago on an expedition. She is recognizable to many of you as on NASA Space Channel. She does the NASA station life and did those segments and is very animated about that on there. The Russian on the left, he is the longest duration human being of all. He has been in space for over 950 days on 5 different missions, 5 expeditions to the International Space Station. Never was on the Mir space station. And Konenko's his name. And the closest to him is 800 days. He is shattering the record of human being orbiting the Earth on 5 different missions. He will have accumulated over 1,000 days when he comes back from space. And on our Crew Dragon group down there at the bottom, we've got a senior citizen there. That's his arms are folded there. Mike Barrett. He is 65 years old, spent his birthday up in space. So he's getting all those Medicare notices, Marty, in his inbox there for cheap burial insurance and Medicare supplements up there. So that's a Russian on the left of him there. Let me get my little list of friends in space here. You got Oleg Konyenko. He's 59, all right. And he's got 975 days in space. Think about that. He's still young enough. He could go a couple more times. He's on his 5th expedition. Tracy's been on 223 days in space, and Nick Chubb up there. They've put about 250 days in space already. The crew 8 that's up there include where did I put those guys? I'm looking for my crew 8 must be under here. There we are. Expedition 71. Let's show that. There's the Tiangong space station, okay? Artist's conception of it, and have not seen a good photograph of it. Of course, this communist country keeps things close to the vest. But wanted to say our astronauts up there, we got 3 Chinese, 3 Russian, 4 Americans, all 3 superpowers represented, nobody else up there. You've got Alexander Gribun is on the left. I mentioned Mike Barrett. Mike Barrett's approaching 300 days in space. He had 2 previous space shuttle missions, 1 expedition mission that dropped him off. Matthew Dominic is the other American up there, and the African American is Jeanette Epps, and she's 53. She was scratched from Expedition 56, and then she was going to be on the Starliner 1 uh, initial launch when they had, I think they planned the maiden flight to be 4 people, and they cut it back. She's the second black woman to live on the space station after Jessica Watkins did 6 months ago. So, and did I have a picture of them? Oh, there we go. Okay, I do have a picture of them there. We'll break away from that. I was showing the Chinese space station there, and there's a Chinese doing a spacewalk in March up there. Cliff Watson's joined us. Hey, how's your brekkie there on Thursday morning, Cliffy? Great that you joined us today. And but what's this? Well, I thought I'd throw this in there. Let's don't forget about things that are orbiting the Earth. This is China's mini shuttle, spy shuttle, just like we've got our X-37B that's orbiting the Earth. X-37B, the United States space plane, was launched December 28th on a Falcon Heavy rocket. That was a beautiful night launch that Carlton Bailey nailed picture-wise. The SpaceX rocket carried the X-37B to orbit for the 7th space flight of the program, and it was the third one, probably the fourth one of this. They have 2 of these, and each one of them flew 3 times. One flew for over 2 years. This is the one that was up there 2 years. Look at the patina on the top up there from reentry. And of course, there's hypergolic fuels on board. That's why the recovery crew there is in those hazmat outfits there. I guess, would we call it hazmat, Marty, or call it escape suits?
It's the escape suits.
Yeah, Marty's calling it escape suit there because they're have a back on them. It's self-contained, isn't it, in there? So our X-37B tests include operating new orbital regimes. That's spy stuff right there. Experimenting with space domain awareness technologies. That's spy stuff, okay. And investigating radiation effects to NASA materials. Well, a little bit of spy stuff. They also take up plant seeds on the last one to expose them to radiation and bring them back as experiments of how they have to take seeds to space to grow in space up there. So don't forget, we got those Russians, Chinese, Americans, and 2 spy mini space planes that have great capabilities because they can move quickly over areas of the world, whereas other spy satellites in higher orbits and with less maneuverability don't. So who knows what's also hanging off of this. In fact, when the Chinese launched their mission, which was like a week after ours in January 2024, observers of these sort of things saw that 4 or 5 objects were sent out of the payload of this. Mini satellites were set out for various investigations and flew in formation, they say, with this for a while. So there's all kinds of people who study what's orbiting the Earth, and really we'll do a show on that one day because there's several really good guys that devote a lot of time to that. All right, so Expedition 71 is in its 2nd month up there. As the emblem says, they're doing science, they're doing astronomy, they're doing molecular biology, they're creating organs in space. That's a new technology there. You see the DNA up at the top. And there is the crew that I was just talking about there. Tracy Dyson in the back. You got the Russian on the left there. The 2 other Russians behind there. Konyenko's in the back. Of course, you got Janet Epps, Dominic, and Michael Barrett there in the front there. So having a big time up there. During the eclipse, April 8th, they had some fun donning some solar glasses in the cupola. All right. After all, they had to keep their eyes safe there too. And here you see Tracy and Jeanette having a big weightless moment up there. the caption of this was house cleaning, getting ready for the 2 occupants. All right. So we're sure the house is clean, as they've been cleaning since May 6th to get the Boeing Starliner and their 2 friends, Sonny and Butch, up there. And there is an awesome shot taken last year of our International Space Station. What a miracle in production and so forth this vehicle has been. So, well, let's see what else we've got. Anybody have any comments or questions to me here? Let me increase that. Oh, there we go. Oh, well, Mark Thiel says his wife and daughter don't believe he's on the air with us. So, Mark Thiel, hello, buddy. Thank you for your intelligent questions there. Suda, I like your comments, but kind of keep them to what we're talking about here. She's already wondering some other things there. We appreciate you being here and talking with everybody else on there. So, all right, let's see. What happened to those landing gears? We were looking at that Chinese thing there. So, no, Mark Thiel, thank you for supporting us, and glad that your wife and daughter want to be space geeks also. They should be if they're not. As it all started with me, with these Mercury astronauts here. Definitely my heroes. All of them have passed away. And I had the posters on the wall from the 1960s would rip out pictures in National Geographic or Life magazine of my Mercury heroes there. So, oh, another note here. We were talking about Chinese astronauts. They have launched 22 Takonauts since 2003. So in 20 years, they've launched 22, and 2 of them have been women. And they're going to the moon big time. So we're going to be watching the Chinese as close as they'll let us. So, well, let's segue into the space history moment of the era 55 years ago, where we had Apollo 10 orbiting the moon 55 years ago, getting ready for Gene and Tom Stafford, Gene, to get into the lunar module and go down to 9 miles of the moon. All right. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. This is a beautiful piece of artwork by Chris Cowley. Yep. Let me catch my wits here as I'm trying to put in my head what I want to talk about. Chris, thank you for watching. He's been a great partner of the museum. His artwork is unparalleled out there, space art. These are montages he likes doing with the photos and his beautiful artwork and other mediums on there. And folks, when I posted this and some other Apollo 10 information, sadly, there's a lot of people that think we didn't go to the moon, and those hoaxers want to pile on our little humble Facebook and say all kinds of things, a lot of derogatory things, and even take the museum to task for charging admission for phony artifacts. All right. And we don't tolerate that. We just block you. All right. So keep them coming, because I spent a little bit of my evening last night blocking about 25 people that were piling on the other people that are trying to substantiate that if we didn't go to the moon, how come Russia didn't say we went to the moon? That was part of their national pride, to beat us as a communist nation. And how come Marty's not giving back the money that he made, all right, with Grumman? Now, I know you said, Marty, you got paid to build something, you build it. You don't know exactly where it went, so.
I know exactly where it went.
Yeah, exactly. And his name is on the moon also, on Apollo 11.
And why did we do it 6 times?
Yeah, why'd we do it 6 times? That's Marty's. If we faked the moon landings, why'd we do it 6 times? With a near disaster in the middle of it. You know, what were we scripting a drama for eternity here? It's just plain stupid, and we don't tolerate it. And, you know, we respect your right to free speech, but don't pile on a Facebook page devoted to this. Go to your own hoaxer page and entertain each other there. But I'll be blocking some more people tonight. My wrist gets sore, actually, a few times this has occurred. Every time it happens, we're just weeding out some of them in there. But it's sad, and it's the reason why they don't think we went to the moon is education. All right. You have to be educated to understand things. And yes, everything does seem like magical in front of you. Heck, water boiling into steam seems like magic, okay, until you understand what's going on there and the physics involved. So just wanted to throw that out there. It's a sad statement on today's society that about 20% of the people on Earth don't think we went to the moon. Why wouldn't you? What's wrong with you? This is human beings doing the best they can to create things, and not $1 has been spent in space. They have never stuffed $100 bills in a rocket and shot it in space. All that money was spent on jobs here on Earth and materials made here on Earth. Yes, Marty, you had a comment on the UCAC microphone, or?
I forget what it was.
Oh. Well, I was on my horse about the hoaxers, and that you've got a good comeback. Why we do it 6 times? Um, you know, it's just stupid and ridiculous when this hardware is everywhere across our country. Our museum is filled with manuals and artifacts and so forth that come out of this. And like I said, we respect your right to free speech and free thinking, but we're not going to tolerate it on a website or Facebook page that's devoted to honoring the American space worker. Yeah, Marty.
Yeah, I'm sure their houses are filled with
Yeah.
I'm sure their houses are filled with space spin-offs like computers and cell phones.
Absolutely. We're communicating with you all out there because of that, all right? And yeah, it's just a very sad statement on the lack of education among some people. And when I go to their Facebook page to block them for the rest of eternity, as Mr. Hugh Harris, the late Hugh Harris would say, they usually, it's a setup page sometimes, and they don't have many friends. They're flat earthers is another thing. If you want to believe in the flat earth, that's okay. How about the flat moon? How about the flat Mars? Okay. Why aren't they flat? And as Carlton Bailey knows, proof that the earth is not flat, Marty, if the earth was flat, cats would have knocked everything off of it by now. All right. Let's get on to some space history there. And with this setup with this great man, the General Tom Stafford, with my friend and your friend Chris Calley there. Tom's holding a sketch of the lunar orbiter that he made. He made these kind of simple elementary sketches of the lunar lander and the command module over the years, and then they turned this motif into a series of patio furniture with that on the back that they sell at his wonderful Tom Stafford Air and Space Museum in Weatherford, Oklahoma, his hometown, just 40 miles west of Oklahoma City, another fabulous city museum in Oklahoma City. But you got to have Tom Stafford's museum on your bucket list. And when you go there, you'll go to Oklahoma City, and then 2 or 3 hours north is the Cosmosphere in Kansas up there. Mark Thiel's saying that he followed the space program since a kid, and he did get a chance to meet Tom, John, and Gene this mission. Very strange to actually meet them for the first time. Didn't know how to address them. Steve Jokem's a comment that he has about the hoaxers is you can't fix stupid. So we all know that. So. Well, Sutra says we shouldn't block them, but they're very hateful, Sutra, and they don't want to be educated. We can't embrace people that want to remain ignorant about something so fabulous. So we just let them go. Well, here is, of course, Gene Cernan on the left. He walked on the moon and commanded Apollo 17. Tom Stafford went on after this mission to get involved with the Apollo-Soyuz test project. And John Young, the pilot of the command module, he became the commander of Apollo 16 and walked on the moon, the mission before Gene did. So what a great cohesive crew. Also, can't forget to mention that Stafford and Cernan were together on Gemini 9, which was a close call, as Gene Cernan had uh, a spacewalk from hell, as he called it, where he lost control, he overheated, he was starting to get his respiratory rate and heart rate were just through the roof, and Tom Stafford had to literally pull him in by his life-saving uh, hose that had his air in it in communications as Cernan's faceplate fogged over and he couldn't see anywhere. So that was a big lesson learned on how not to do spacewalks, and that was a big unknown that NASA had to figure out, and they did on subsequent spacewalks on Apollo, on Gemini 10, 11, and then of course Gemini 12. Buzz Aldrin figured it all out. He trained in a water tank, all right, with frogmen to do his thing in there. And so here is Snoopy. Of course, we talked yesterday or the other day about you had to have two call names for two spacecraft. You just couldn't say Apollo 10, come in. So the command module was called Charlie Brown, and the lunar module was called Snoopy. Now, this is without its landing situation there. And we're going to recant what happened when Tom and Gene went down to about 9 miles of the surface, and this is over Mare Tranquility at the area where they Apollo 11 landed in this area here. They were scouting out smooth areas there. Tom Stafford said, I see plenty of parking lots in the area there among the craters. Yes, it is bombarded like every inch of the moon is, but it's smooth enough that we can get a lunar module down there. And so when they got within 9 miles, their descent engine is roaring out of this, and then they're going to pretend like they're on the surface of the moon and cut off the engine briefly and then separate all of the pyrotechnics that have to go right to separate miles of cables, pipe, all kinds of things have to go right to have this pop off, all right, just at the right moment. And then this goes up, and this, of course, stays on the lunar surface. Well, what they were doing at 9 miles up was going to separate. This was going to crash on the lunar surface, and then they're going up to John Young and Charlie Brown. So when Snoopy separated this, Marty and I watched a video with Gene Cernan today talking about this, and it's probably 5 or 6 years before Gene died because he was an elderly man, of course, back then when he did this. And Dave Stange asked for us to come up with some of the details of this, what has become known as the Buck and Bronco ride, and where Gene Cernan shouted out an expletive that he got called out on. So Gene said this, that he trained on this 100 times. He and Tom Stafford had, right 10 miles from us at the flight crew training building. And he said between Tom and me was a switch called the guidance switch. It had two positions, primary and abort. Gene flipped. He says, I reached over at the appropriate time and flipped to the abort guidance. All right, I flipped it to the guidance switch to abort, which was the proper method because that's the procedure they were practicing because they were not on the surface of the moon. It was like Apollo 11 had to abort in the middle of the landing sequence, and it would automatically have the radar set so that it would know where the command module was, and they wouldn't have to do anything but like ride an elevator to safety. So Gene said he flipped it, and then like pilots usually do, Tom Stafford reached over there, wasn't looking to see that it had been flipped, and he flipped it and moved it back to where it was, all right? So they were now not in abort mode, but in primary guidance mode. They should have been in abort mode. And then they pushed the button to separate the two the bottom descent from the ascent, and the hypergolic fuels met in this simplest of engines ever flown in space. And when these hypergolic liquids meet, they blow up, and the exhaust happened. But everything separated. When they separated, then Gene says, uh, we started bucking around. The primary took over instead of the abort landing gear. The primary didn't know where we were. I saw the lunar horizon 8 times in 15 seconds. Now they're in this spacecraft, and he said he saw it 8 times in 15. Now Marty and I watched how his hands went too when he was describing this, and we think it basically didn't flip over end like that, but it basically went like sideways like this. And of course, you're looking, you would see the ground, and then you'd see the sky, and then you'd see the ground, and you'd see the sky. And Gino said 8 times in 15 seconds, this thing rolled like that. Stafford shut down all systems, and he took 8 seconds to stabilize it. All right. And they were okay. They were in a stable orbit. They had enough fuel to make it up to John Young in Charlie Brown. Now, he also commented, he said, that we took enough out of our vector, the orbit, energy of that orbit, that if we orbited the moon 2 times more without docking with John Young, we would have started falling back. The moon's gravity was going to start grabbing it, and it would have decayed, and they wouldn't have had enough energy to get up to John Young. So, well, this became an X-rated event, even Gene Cernan said, because exactly what he said when he pushed the button and it started spinning around was he said, "Son of a bitch, what the hell happened?" And he was on a hot open mic in front of the American public as this was broadcast on CBS with Walter Cronkite and NBC with Jules Bergman on ABC and so on and so forth. And so he's talked about that in this little short interview where he said, I got 50 letters of what a great mission you had. And then the 51st letter would be, you had a great mission, but how could you use that kind of language in front of my kids on TV back in 1869? And he didn't realize he swore, he actually said, and nobody said anything to him. Stafford didn't say something to him. John Young probably heard it, but didn't say anything to him. I mean, these are alpha dog men out there. Most of them had a little bit of a salty language. But Cernan said, I had to make an apology on national television. I had no idea I said this until I got home at the airport at Ellington Air Force Base outside of Houston, and my wife said to you had a pretty salty mouth on that mission. We all heard it. And he goes, what? I don't know. She says, yeah, you said, son of a bitch, what the hell's happening on there? Which in today's vernacular of cuss words is pretty mild, I think, when you hear some horrible songs that have a lot of words in them. So yeah, that was pretty cool, that interview we saw with Gene Cernan. But he says they flipped 8 times, not end over end. He's more indicating it was a roll that they would see going up and down on there. And it was his commander, Gene Cernan, that saved the day. They've never really admitted how close they may have been to crashing into the moon, but I've heard, if they hadn't recovered that quickly, within 20 seconds, they would have lost the mission there. So, all right, let's see here. We've got some great comments there. Everybody's watching as we're going on the home stretch of today's Open Mic with Mark program here. Hope you're enjoying it. We're anxious to see scenes like this again. Earth in the moon. The inspiration for Chris Callie's, many of his artwork is Earthrise. And just to look at that, and of course everybody wants to put it horizontal, but no, it didn't always happen that way. The Earth would rise like that depending on your angle going around the moon. But every human being, every TV show, everything you've ever thought of, every book written, every invention, everything that we think we've done on Earth that makes us superior is just right there on that beautiful blue and white marble in the sky. And here's what Gene Cernan said about it. I thought this was kind of appropriate, a little different part of his interview. Gene Cernan said, let me get down here, show you all my bald spot. What did he say there? Well, gosh darn it, what did he say? He said there's two kinds of space programs. Do I have that around me here? I do want to show that, and I don't. I wanted his exact words, Marty. What he said. That's the Chinese stuff. That's the there, and that's that. And I don't know what did I do with it. All right, that's stuff from. Well, I guess I have to paraphrase. He said when you look at there's two types of space programs, and I had it in my hand here. Oh, here it is. Here it is right there. I had. Gene Cernan says two space programs, one technical and one spiritual. He said flying around the Earth is a lot different than a translunar flight. When you're flying around the Earth, you see sunrises and sunsets, okay? And you see the Earth down there. You don't have to swivel your neck around to see anything. But when you're on a translunar flight, all right, you watch the Earth get smaller, and it's enveloped in the blackness beyond our conception. And there you see the infinity of time, the infinity of space, the essence of it all. I don't know what it is, but it exists because I saw it with my own eyes. That's what Gene Cernan said, and kind of an it factor. He didn't say religious or even use the word spiritual, but he said that looking at the Earth, and a lot of astronauts have commented, it's such a black that you can't describe the black. You've never seen a black this dark, and it's infinity around the Earth, and he said that was the essence of it all. And he goes, I don't know what it is, but it exists because I saw it with my own eyes. The great Gene Cernan. He really did a great job of in his later years of carrying the torch of not just the Apollo program, but of humanity needs to explore, and that is our goal there. So, well, let me go off with one other thing here that's in the news today. Is Bill Whiting was telling me today, as he was with us in line to see John Harrington, that he enjoys some of the space stuff that we do. Current events. So another current events thing that you see a lot of, particularly you that get space newsletters, is Webb telescope spots the most distant supermassive black hole merger yet. And here you're seeing it. So incredible that we're looking back in time, less than 800 million years after the Big Bang, the dawn of the universe. We're looking back less than 1 billion years into this 14 billion year universe, and we're seeing black holes that they thought would never be there in this early of a universe. They thought black holes would be 2-3 billion years in development. What's a black hole? Well, they're a gravity sinkhole. They're sucking everything in. They're letting nothing out, even light. So why are we seeing the light here, Mark? Well, the light is the interaction of material being destroyed in the form of light around a black hole. It's called an event horizon. But here we have two black holes. And just believe me, astrophysicists like our good friend Dr. Eric Perlman, look up his very popular program that he did at Shuttlefest is on our Facebook and YouTube channel. Dr. Eric Perlman, he knows all about black holes and puts it very simply that no, we don't know where that material's going. All right, we don't even know if it's leaving the universe or what's happening to it. But these are very young black holes in a young universe, and they shouldn't be there. Many galaxies, including ours, have supermassive black holes in the center. Science has a good handle on how stellar black holes form from the leftovers of dying stars. A dying star will implode on itself, and then the gravity will suck everything in. But we didn't have an idea how far back the process went, and now we know it goes back. With the James telescope has opened up a new window into the earliest era of the universe. Um, a new study used Webb to observe this incredible pair of black holes, uh, and they are merging into even a bigger monster black hole. All right, so the Webb telescope is the only instrument capable of making this observation. All right, no Earth-based telescopes, not the Hubble. It's only the Webb, whose mirrors are 6 times larger than the Hubble, and its instruments designed to see infrared spectrum. So, uh, and other things that the Webb has seen are some different shaped uh, galaxies that we never thought would form this way in the early universe. They're calling them frisbees and surfboards. All right, you kind of got an oval surfboard. You got a volleyball type of stars being formed. That's above my head there, the volleyball. You've got oblate spheroids and prolate, all kinds of structures that we thought we would never. The prolate's interesting. That's the one in this right hand corner at the top up there. It's bent. All right. Why would it be bent? Why wouldn't the gravity make it flow on a plane there? Well, these are things that the Webb telescope, and it's phenomenal. Astronomers arming it with research will find out more and more. So every week there's some headline, like I said, that I read to you about the Webb telescope discovering something that shouldn't be there, or something that's making astronomers scratch their head. And there we have one of the most gorgeous images of the space age, particularly the 21st century now. That is the cosmic reef that is photographed by the Webb telescope. This is thousands of stars are being born. The bright ones there have just been born. You see the radiation behind it of matter that we don't see creating. The stars with the hexes in them, those are in our galaxy. And this is in our galaxy in between those there. So let's see if we got any final comments there. And thank you all for talking to them. Steve Jokum said he got to meet Gene at River Forest at Trenton College on the 25th anniversary of his flight. So that was nice. And Dave Stange said Gene Cern's one of his favorite moonwalkers. So next time we visit the moon with Apollo 11 in July, we will ask you who your favorite moonwalkers are, and be prepared for the naysayers. But like Sutra's pointing out on her comments, we need to educate people, and that's what our program's all about here to do. And once in a while, I even get some criticism that what we're doing here is not a good value. But those people aren't science-minded or space people, and that's okay. All right, you can't be all things to everybody. So thank you all for watching today. And we're bemoaning the fact we're not having a Starliner launch this weekend, but we hope that they solve their problems. After all, it has to be right. We need to get every astronaut that goes to space back alive. And Sonny and Butch are certainly two very experienced astronauts, and they know what they're going through. Things have to be right before we put humans in space. So these are my favorite humans. Only one of them walked on space. That'd be him right up there, Alan Shepard. But they were certainly pioneers of the unknown back in the 1960s, 62 and 63 missions of Mercury. So we're going to talk about Scott Carpenter's 3 orbits around Earth, and what he saw that could have scared him between John Glenn's launch and him. So stay tuned for that on Friday. And tomorrow we're going to talk about some of the shuttles of the month of May, 10 beautiful shuttles that did amazing things that still is impacting our lives today here a quarter way into the 21st century. Well, until next time, thank you for watching. I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.